Hello citizens of the internet, my name's Jimmy, and I know I'm a bit late to the party, but 3 years ago I saw Biomutant on Steam and got pretty hyped for it. Now, I'm not too sure why, it just looked pretty neat to me, okay? I mean, in the creator's own words, it's an open world, post-apocalyptic, kung fu fable RPG. Like, how cool does that sound? Not only that, but Experiment 101, the game studio behind it, was founded by Stefan I'm not going to read that one. Supposedly one of the key members on the team that created Mad Max and Just Cause, which are awesome games. So, obviously, they seem to have some sort of experience making this kind of game. But then, the 25th of May arrived, and so did Biomutant, to some less than stellar reviews. Which put me off of buying it instantly, but once patch 1.4 rolled out, I had a new interest considering the developers claimed it had solved a lot of the major issues, so I bought it. Now look, I'm no reviewer, but I'm definitely opinionated, so here's what I thought of it. Obviously, like most other RPGs, you start out with a character creator, which I thought was pretty interesting considering your appearance actually affects your stats at the beginning. I just thought it was kind of a neat thing to do considering I've not seen it in many other games before. Even if you want to go for the best stats to start off with and don't like your appearance, it's fine because throughout the world you can find pools of nuclear waste that actually let you change your appearance without affecting your stats. Anyway, after that, you go for a lovely little tutorial meet Out of Date, one of the main characters of the game, and like a lot of old people, he never shuts the up. He tells you about the 4 World Eaters and how they're warring tribes trying to destroy the world. Those 2 details are pretty important considering that's like the main story in the game. Kill the World Eaters and end the tribe war. There's also like a side story, which isn't exactly a side story, but it's portrayed as one, I think. I'm not entirely sure considering the story's pacing was pretty weird at points and kind of threw me off as to what my main objective was. So I'm going to do this not reviewing stages to make it easier for us all to digest. So, let's start with the first thing you do in the game.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bah, bah.
Okay, so at first, the combat was pretty good. It flowed pretty well, and the class I picked had a machine gun, which was pretty fun. And for the first few hours, the combat was good. The little rat raccoon things use a martial art called Wong Fu, which you can upgrade through leveling up. But, admittedly, once you get through some of the bigger parts of the story, it all starts to feel the same. With the class I chose, I spent most of my time just running circles around the enemies. I hardly even used the special abilities which you can unlock because they were just unnecessary really. I played on normal difficulty because I assumed that would be the most fair way to play it, but in all honesty I could probably have gone 2 difficulties up. There were plenty of times where I was easily beating enemies a few levels above me. The only real challenge I actually felt was when the game didn't explain itself properly as to what I had to do. And I mean, okay, look. I know this game's made for kids, and I'm a 22-year-old. But, you know, easiness and initial fun aside, the fights eventually just become monotonous and boring.
Same, but different.
I think there's a really easy way to sum this game up.
Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is? Insanity is doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again, expecting shit to change. That is crazy.
Okay, so the story goes, once upon a time, an evil corporation ruined the world by pumping it full of chemicals, and the only things that managed to survive ended up becoming mutated. A tale as old as time, and the backstory of the world itself is told through pictures you can find and puzzles you can solve. Oh yeah, did I mention there's a bunch of puzzles in this game? They're pretty decent, easy puzzles, but they do help up to break the game a bit in a good way. I didn't really have much of a problem with them, except for the fact that every time I'd get to finishing one, I'd get the same line of dialogue from the narrator.
Just a few moves left, make them count. Just a few moves left, make them count. Just a few moves left, make them count.
All of the dialogue in this game actually comes from the same narrator, who is actually a character telling a story, but you don't find that out until the end. My biggest problem with the narrator is the fact he never shuts up. So much so, the developers actually patched in an option to make him shut up. He's voiced by David Shaw Park, who's actually been in a few things. And honestly, I'd probably have been able to tolerate him if he wasn't being forced to read such strange words all the time. The script sometimes feels like it was written by a 14-year-old on Tumblr with some of the weird words in it, which, I mean, isn't necessarily a problem because it's the world of the game, and I get it that, you know, like, it fits the world, but like, it's just weird. I'm sorry, it's just weird. I can't explain it to you better than it's weird. Like, everything in this game feels so cutesy and lovely, but then you have to like slaughter villages and save the world, and you have like this really weird moral dilemma going on all throughout the game. And I'm gonna get to all of that in a minute, but I'm sorry, it's in my head now. Like, I'm thinking about it, how it's such a cute game on the exterior, but then when you really get into it, it's like, you know, the world's been destroyed by nuclear radiation. It's just, as I said, it just throws me off. I'm sorry. Anyway, that was unscripted. That was just me realizing how odd everything actually is when you sort of dive into it. The story itself is also somewhat confusing and oddly paced. Now, this part is all pretty much going to be spoilers, so if you do have any intentions of playing this game, then just skip it. But the gist is, you play as a Ronin, or at least that's what the game calls it, whose mum was the creator and master of Wong Fu. You live in a peaceful village until one day, the game's quote-unquote main villain, if you could call him that, Lupa Lupin, who's apparently the world's only lasting carnivore. Well, anyway, he attacks the village, burning it down, which is all explained in a flashback. He also kills your parents, which unfortunately I didn't manage to record because I made an oopsie. But again, see how dark it gets in places? Anyway, you spend the whole game being told how evil he is and are constantly made to feel like there's some huge moral dilemma until you find out that really he wasn't that much of a bad guy at first. He was just a carnivore who just watched his mum be killed by the main character's mum, which is why he wanted to get revenge on him. I mean, you know, pretty fair. The poor dude even tried to change his diet and become a vegetarian so that he could fit in, but he couldn't. I was hoping the game would give him some sort of redemption arc, seeing as how they go on and on. So much about forgiveness and peace, but no, all they do is give you the option to execute him or not. Which, you know, personally I think is pretty messed up for a kid's game. But anyway, it turns out that that's not actually the main story, and the main story is actually saving the world from the World Eaters. But no, wait, no, that's not the main story. The main story is actually saving the world from the warring factions. Yeah, I wasn't really too sure which part was the main story. I mean, I guess technically they all were, seeing as you had to pretty much do it all in order, but seeing as all the missions felt like side quests, it was kind of hard to tell, which leads me to my biggest problem with the game.
I'm afraid I'm not taking prisoners today.
Okay, so look, this game took me 13 hours to complete. I did do quite a bit of exploring and a few side quests, but towards the end, I just wanted it to be over. See, as I said before, the tribe wars and killing the World Eaters is a must-do task. So why the hell was doing it so repetitive? To complete the tribe war part of the game, you have to capture outposts, which, when I first did it, I thought it was pretty cool. But by the time I'd beaten the Yagni or Jagni tribe, I didn't want to do them anymore. Capturing the outposts consists in slaughtering a village and capturing their flag, but they're all practically built the same and filled with the same waves of enemies. Each time it made me laugh because the tribe I decided to side with were meant to be peaceful and loving and specifically tell you not to do too much damage, but then they tell you to burn down the village.
It burns brighter than the light.
I like how you're given the option to fight some of the battles and I assume kill the enemy or talk your way out of it, which I usually did, seeing as I decided to go on a peaceful run. Which reminds me, there's a morality system in the game, which has these two annoying fairies, aka your conscience, judge your actions throughout the game, and they have stupid conversations every time you do something good or bad. Whether you're good or bad actually affects what abilities you can unlock in certain cases, but as I said, seeing as I didn't really use them, the abilities were basically just wasted on me, and so was the morality system. Anyway, unfortunately you have to capture one more tribe base before you're given the mercy of peacefully making the rest of the tribes join you, which of course I did because I didn't want to have to go through this torture 3 more times. You do get this wholesome cutscene where all the tribe leaders learning Wong Fu together, which I thought was pretty nice. But that's not even the most repetitive part of the game. The worst part is killing the World Eaters, which I unfortunately left for last because all 4 are the exact same. You go and talk to the old guy, he tells you to go and talk to one of his friends who you know from the flashback where your parents died. They tell you they're working on a machine to kill a World Eater but need your help because they're too incompetent. Once the machine is built or collected, usually you have to go and find it ammo or fuel. Then there's always something else that needs to be got before you can actually go and fight the bosses. It's the exact same thing 4 times in a row. By the final 2, I literally just skipped the dialogue completely. And it's just weird because the first and final boss were pretty good and interesting and actually used the machines you spent so long building. But 2 and 3 was just me riding around shooting disgusting warts on the monsters, which had ridiculously adorable names for being such supposedly monstrous creatures. Like, almost everything had such a cute name, even though it was so horrible and evil.
That'll do, Donkey. That'll do.
To finish off the video, I want to talk about the things
Watch
I
out
did
for
actually
drop-offs.
like in the
They
game.
can surprise you.
The game has a loot and crafting system, which I enjoyed quite a lot. However, it did fall to the exact same weaknesses that the rest of the game had, and that's that after 5 hours it all felt the same. I had some pretty overpowered weapons by the time I'd beaten 2 World Eaters, and simply upgrading them seemed to be way better than, actually finding or making new weapons. Same goes for the armor. I found myself just upgrading what I already had on as opposed to swapping it for anything. I know this is actually something that's been addressed in the most recent patch that came out, but it came out literally right after I finished the game. So maybe one day I'll decide to go back and play a new game plus, but from my experience, it was definitely something that needed fixing. The other thing I loved the most was actually the world and character designs. Most were just generic cat things, but there were actually a few that were really cute. There was another side quest in the game where you had to choose 4 creatures to go with you on a spaceship to another world just in case the world blew up. And my decision on who went was based solely on how cute and goofy they looked. The world itself was also really stunning. As I said, it was always a joy to look at, even though I couldn't have it on max settings, which I did find kind of surprising, but then again, my PC is getting old at this point. And the fact that every new area I found told me how much loot there was to find made me actually stop and explore them, which, I know this is a sinful thing to do, but I don't actually tend to do that in RPGs. And the addition of the old world things, I just thought helped, tell the story a bit better. Overall, look, the game was pretty far from perfect, okay? And a lot of the issues I don't imagine they can fix with a simple patch, given the fact they're issues with the core game itself, which is really a shame, especially considering this is a game I've been interested in for 3 years. The fun I felt at the beginning faded way too fast, unfortunately, and by the end it felt a lot like a chore. I hope that after a few more patches, this can be another case like No Man's Sky, where I can say it's redeemed itself, but until then, if you're looking to buy this game, I'd recommend waiting for sales or for the price to drop naturally. Anyway, if you made it this far, please feel free to like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay up to date with the posts, which I'm hoping shall be a lot more frequent from now on. Thank you, and I love you all.